Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this week's reading vlog. We're gonna have a fun time today because I'm going to do a reading vlog on reading some of the books off of the New York Times 100 Best Books of the 21st Century. I'm going to do books from the list that the authors or experts put together, and then maybe we'll also do in the future some off of the readers' favorites because that would also be fun. I quickly just went through and tried to tally the books that I have read off the list and the books that I own and want to read, because obviously there's a lot I want to read off the list, but not all of them I own. And then we'll choose some from the books that I own to read for this week's reading vlog, and it'll probably take me over a week, but I'm just saying this week. Of the 100, I am quite ashamed, but I actually have not heard of a lot of these books, and it makes me want to diversify where I get my book recommendations from, because usually it's like YouTube for the most part is where I get my recommendations from, but there's such a wide variety of places to get recommendations, and I feel like I need to diversify that. So I have read 5 out of 100. That's 5%. That is a failure. Like, you failed. So I've read My Brilliant Friend, Never Let Me Go, Sing Unburied Sing, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and Station 11. And you know what's funny? Is that practically all of these are 5-star reads for me. So that makes me very excited and also very ashamed for the fact that I've taken recommendations from so many other people online and they end up being very bad. Like, maybe I should look at these lists more often. What a concept. Now, as to the books that I want to read and that I own, I have 11. So we've got The Year of Magical Thinking, The Road, Pachinko, Lincoln and the Bardo, H is for Hawk, The Goldfinch, Runaway, Middlesex, Demon Copperhead, The Story of the Lost Child, and Bel Canto. Oh, look at that. Look at my... I've read 5. It's so sad. Oh, there you go. I want to read 11. That's so cute. I've got a pile here of the 4 that interest me the most at the moment. So first, Demon Copperhead. I've been putting this book off, but I think we're gonna start off with this book because I loved David Copperfield and I just know it's gonna be so good. And I think this is like pretty high up on the list if I'm mistaken. So I'm very excited. This is kind of a retelling of David Copperfield, but it is about a boy named Demon Copperhead. You follow along his life where he has been given some trials and tribulations, let me tell you that. The next 3 books we have here is H is for Hawk. I am also very intrigued into getting into this book. This book is about the author. It's a nonfiction about Helen Macdonald, where as she was growing up, she like dreamed of becoming a falconer. And then sometime in her life, her father passes away. And because of that, I think it invigorates her or inspires her to actually go and chase her dreams. So I think that's what this is about. Again, I'm sorry I might not know exactly all the details about these books. I go into books a lot of the times pretty blind. The next book we have is Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. This is a nonfiction book as well about Joan Didion's experience of love, motherhood, loving someone, husbands, being a wife, all of those things. And I don't know if it's a collection of like essays or stories, but I'm very intrigued, and it's the first Joan Didion that I will ever read, and that in itself is very exciting. And then lastly, I also have here Lincoln and the Bardo by George Saunders. I don't know much about this book. I know it's set, I think, sometime in the Civil War. That's just about it. And that's the way I'm gonna keep it. So we've got the reading week, 2 weeks, whatever it takes ahead of us. I'm gonna aim for 3 out of these 4 books, but hopefully we will read all 4. Thankfully, you know, 1 is chunky, but 3 are quite short to normal lengths. So we're gonna start with the biggest one and we'll go from there. And let's see if I have my next 5-star reads in my hands off of this list. And if that's the case, you're going to be seeing me reading a lot more off of this 100 book list, because the fact that the 5 I've read are pretty much 5-star reads for me is all that I need to know to continue reading books recommended on this list. I'm here with an update. I wanted to update you all before I finish this book. So I am, I think, 60 possibly % into this book. Currently on chapter 42. So spent a couple of days with this book so far. I'm really liking it. I'm really liking the voice of Demon. It is quite unique and it is very obvious. Like his character, if I were to ever see it in any other book, I would just know who it is right away. It is written so well and so descriptive. And Demon's character is just so believable and so honest. And Barbara Kingsolver can write a youthful child very well. I do have to say that. So I'm really enjoying the story so far. It is very sad. I can see where the David Copperfield inspiration is from, but I do think there is quite a bit of differences. Here it is very heavy in the implications of drug use and what it has done for Demon's life, and in more ways than one you're seeing that unfold, and that is not really prevalent in David Copperfield. But I get the premise of like an orphan is, I guess, the inspiration. But yeah, I'm really liking it so far. I'm loving the character Angus. I just love her to bits. I love, love, love her. I really enjoy Demon's point of view. It's not like the topics are always fun, but I'm enjoying the story and I'm flying through it, and it's very, very, very easy and bingeable. Every time I pick it up, I feel like, okay, I'm gonna just read like 30 pages or whatever, and I end up reading way more than that just because the story is very interesting. It's also a little bleak, like it's a little boring because you're just following his day-to-day life, but I'm enjoying it because I really like Demon as a person. If I feel like I wouldn't have liked him, this would have been a little bit harder to get through. And I know a lot of people have that experience with David Copperfield where they don't really like David, and it's just like a slog of just going through his daily life over the years. And some people just find that really boring. So I could see that happening here as well. But I feel like Demon is a lot more of a lovable character than David was. Good morning, everyone. It's been a few days since I finished Demon Copperhead, and I had to sit and marinate with my thoughts. And I think now is a good time to talk about this book because I don't want any of my initial reactions and thoughts to kind of simmer off. But I'm gonna give this 5 stars. What a masterpiece of a book. I love this. I possibly might like it more than David Copperfield just because it is a little bit more relatable in the sense that it is a more current timeline. So a lot of the things that are talked about in this book are things that are talked about in the news and such like that. It is a little bit more relatable, but not to the extent of how deep this book goes. So I don't even know what I talked about in the first clips of reading this, but I love Demon. I think his voice is so unique, honest, believable. By the end of this book, I felt like Demon was my best friend, and I followed along the journey of his life with him, and through the ups and the downs, mostly all the downs. There's not a lot of ups in this book. You just feel like you're family with these characters at the end, and I was so sad for the story to finish. I really wanted it to continue on. And the ending, like at a point there, I was like, I don't know how many pages left in the book, maybe 50, maybe even less, and I was like, is Demon even gonna get a happy ending? I was terrified that this book was not gonna wrap up in a nice way, and thankfully it did, because I would have been shattered if it, you know, ended any other way than how it ended. But it's also a little bit of like a ending. Like you don't really know how the rest of his life is gonna go. You just hope for the best. And I don't know why I feel like I'm gonna cry and get emotional over this character, but I don't know. After like almost 600 pages, you are just so attached. And I loved the side characters. I think just everyone was so unique and individual and put this story together so well. And although so many bad things happened in Demon's life, you still had that like little ounce of hope that it would turn around. And there was a lot of parts that I thought there's no way he's gonna survive this. There's a lot of talk about drugs and drug use in America and how prevalent the issue is and how it just spreads and it's so bad. But I don't think a lot of us know how bad it is unless you are around and surrounded by this environment. Addiction is so crazy. It is a monster. It's a beast to try and overcome. And I think this book tackled that topic very, very well and very honestly. And it hurt. I was in pain reading parts of this book, I have to say. I think that's the empathetic side of me that, like, it's bad. Like, sometimes I'm like, can I please feel less pain for people that I don't know? Because it's a lot to carry, but this book was just so good, so well written, so unique. I highly recommend it. The audiobook, I listened to the audiobook for a couple chunks here and there, and I think the narrator was great. The narrator kind of reminded me of Forrest Gump. It was kind of funny, that very southern drawl. I really enjoyed the narrator for the audiobook, so I would highly also recommend that. But I also think that this is a book that the writing is so beautiful that to absorb it, you should physically read it. I did a lot of tandem reading because I loved the writing so much that I didn't want it to kind of fade away just by listening to it as an audiobook. But it was so good. Yeah, I loved it. I was very afraid to read this book just because of how much I love David Copperfield and also how much people rave about this book. I didn't know if it was going to meet my expectations, and it blew my expectations out of the park. It was just so good. And as of now, we've got another 5-star off that list. So hopefully the next 3 books are also 5 stars. But last night I started Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. I think this is gonna hurt. I am 14 pages in, and right now we're just learning about her husband dying, and her daughter is also hospitalized at the same time. This is gonna be very grief heavy, I think. And I know that's what like the synopsis says, but I didn't expect to jump right into it. We will continue. It is short, so I don't know how much we're gonna get into this book today, but I don't have many thoughts other than knowing it's gonna be a heavy one. Okay, I'm gonna just stop talking. I have nothing else to say other than I just started this book, so we'll continue on, and I will talk to you when I have more thoughts about The Year of Magical Thinking. Are you in my video? Are you being so cute? Ice was sitting over here, so... Oh, you don't want to be at the camera? You don't want to be facing the camera? I feel like I haven't gotten any reading clips or... Why are you... That's so rude. Yeah, I feel like I haven't gotten any reading BTS. Apologies. I will try better for the next few books. But I finished Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking yesterday, and I've been kind of thinking about it. And I don't have a rating per se right now. It is a nonfiction book about grief, and so it is very hard to rate something like that. I don't know if I will rate it. Usually I like to give all my books ratings, even if it's a nonfiction, to the point where if I found I enjoyed it or if I found value out of it, not so much me rating someone's experience in life that they're talking about. I found this very profound, very beautiful. She talks about grieving over her husband who passed away, and then also her daughter who is sick in the hospital at the same time, and going through the motions of dealing with the loss of someone and then the experience of possibly losing somebody else, and especially to people that are so close to her. Any book that is about grief always hits close to home and feels very, very relatable. And there were so many things that I felt like I related to in my own experience of grief and losing my own parent, my own dad. Oh my God, it's now been so many years that I don't remember exactly how many years. I think it's been 7 years. And then there were parts that obviously I couldn't relate to because it's her husband that she lost. So it made me think about my mom who, went through the same situation. And it's just hard. It's hard to read something like this. And then there were some parts that I found it's not that I didn't care, but there was just a lot of talks about different situations that she was with, and she was name dropping a lot of people that I didn't know who she was talking about. And Joan Didion is such a well-known person, so she's very well connected, clearly. And so there were some people's names that I didn't know, like Julia Child, and other names I was like, I don't know who you're talking about, but you're talking about private planes and all of these things. So those parts kind of made me fall out of that like bubble of grief. And so I didn't really relate very well to those parts. But then the parts that were talking about the heaviness of grief, I was very absorbed into it, and I felt very hard for it. So it's a very short book. It's a little over 200 pages, so very short, but lots and lots to dig through. I kind of tabbed a few different pages. I dog marked quite a few different pages when I didn't have a pen with me, so I need to go back and kind of figure out which parts I actually wanted to underline on those pages. But yeah, we will talk about my final ratings at the end of this video. I finished that, and then last night I started Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders, because H is for Hawk, which is the other book. That one is also a nonfiction, so I thought, let me go back to fiction, and then the last book will be another nonfiction. I got 10 pages into this book, and already I'm a little confused, because I think this book is about, or has a lot of like little vignettes or passages from certain people that the author is quoting, and I'm assuming these are all made up characters, but they're all providing insight into the story, and then, just quickly flipping through, all the pages are like that. So I feel like we don't have a narrator, but we're following along this story through a lot of different people's lenses. I don't know. A little confusing. I think I need to look a little bit into how this book was written so I can understand it more, just because that kind of threw me off a little. But again, 10 pages in, nothing really to say. It was a very well written 10 pages. I was invested, and then I fell asleep, but I'm a little confused. So we'll see. This one again is taking place during the Civil War, so it's February 1862. President Lincoln, his son Willie, is ill and then dies, and it also involves supernatural realm. I think that his son comes to be a ghost. Not sure how this is gonna go. We'll see. A lot of really great reviews I was looking at online. I'm just a little thrown off at this because it kind of feels like you're being jerked back and forth into the story, and it's not very seamless. But I feel like maybe I just need to continue reading and then, push through that kind of learning curve of this type of writing, and then it'll get better. We'll see. That's all I have to do anyways. I'm just gonna have to keep reading. But yeah, that's Lincoln in the Bardo, and I will talk to you all hopefully soon when I am many pages into this book. Are you gonna say bye? No? No? Why not? Why don't you say bye? Why aren't you being nice? No? You're so sweet, you know that? You're so sweet. maybe 2/3, but definitely more than halfway through Lincoln and the Bardo. I've been meaning to check in, but there hasn't come a point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to talk about how I'm feeling, because although I'm not confused anymore about what is going on, I don't know if I'm really enjoying the story. I feel bad because there's so many good reviews online, but I'm just kind of disconnected. I don't feel connected to the characters, the story, and I don't know. I'm not feeling it, which I'm very upset about. But there are so many characters in this book, but primarily you're following around, I would say, 5 characters, 4 of which are ghosts. And then the main character is President Lincoln, who's still alive and grieving his son. And then you're following along these ghosts, kind of. I would say it's like it's similar to like purgatory. They're in that like middle part of like they're dead, but they're not kind of released from Earth. And so you're following along William, or Willie, this kid who cannot accept the fact that he is dead and is trying to go back to his father. And then you have these 3 other ghosts that are there kind of supporting him and trying to get him to release that thinking that he has and kind of tell him, you know, this is not going to happen. Along the story, you're also hearing from all these other ghosts and their stories and how they ended up here and how they died, as well as you're then going back to real life with President Lincoln, where then you're hearing all of his story, but through the lens of a bunch of other people. I think maybe because there's just so many different people's thoughts and opinions, I feel like I'm not connected to any one character other than the 3 main ghosts. Like I don't even feel connected to Willie or President Lincoln. The 3 ghosts is Reverend Everly Thomas, Rogers Bevan, and Hans Volman. Those are the 3. So yeah, I think this type of writing I'm still not really getting used to, and I thought by now I would be used to it. What has helped is actually tandemly reading and listening to the audiobook, because the audiobook, every single character is narrated by another voice, and it literally says on the audiobook like 166 different characters or different narrators. I'm intrigued to see where the story goes and how Willie navigates his afterlife. I fear this is not going to be a 5-star, and we're slowly going down from all my 5-star reads and ratings from the New York Times list. Now we've got a 4-star added, which is The Year of Magical Thinking, and this, I have no idea. I'm assuming it might be 3, but it might be even lower. So it's slowly going down, but it is what it is. I'm going to stop rambling and continue on. And once I'm done the book, I will let you all know my final thoughts. Hopefully they're better, but I'm expecting them to be somewhat the same. If you cannot tell by my morning voice, it's the morning. And I've only had a couple sips of coffee, so hopefully my words will be coherent and smooth this morning, because typically it's not that great in the morning. I wanted to come on here to talk about Lincoln and the Bardo. I finished this yesterday. Very conflicting thoughts. I don't know what I'm going to rate it, because honestly, I don't usually feel this way about many books, but I'm very hesitant to say that I really did not like it, because in premise, the themes of the book, what the book explored, and even some of the characters I really enjoyed, but the execution I could not connect with. I really enjoyed the exploration of grief in this book. I thought it was done so well and so honestly. The way that it was written, when it wasn't these like little quotes where they're quoting random people, I'm trying to find you a good, like this one. where it's just quotes of different people and different things people have said, or papers or journals or whatever. These were so disconnected for me. But then the parts where you're in the story with the 3 to 4 main ghosts, I enjoyed those parts. I thought it was really fascinating, and I loved the thought of these ghosts not realizing that they are in the in-between, in the Bardo, in purgatory, you know, all the different words you can say of that realm between real world and afterlife or the next life or whatever. I really enjoyed that part, but I really didn't like President Lincoln. I didn't find his character to be really fascinating at all. And all the snippets of people's opinions and the story being told through all of these different points of views, I didn't really enjoy. I think, though, the audiobook is really good. I think it really helped wrap up the story and piece it all together in a way that reading this was more confusing and not tied together really well because of constantly having to read what these passages are from. I'm deciding between a 2.5 and a 3, but this is a very conflicting one. And, you know, I went and read reviews from 1 star to 5 stars, and I could not relate to the 4 and the 5 stars at all. And I think just this book was not meant for me, and that's okay. Clearly it worked for so many people, so I would never say not to read a book that I didn't like, because what I mesh with could be completely different than what other people mesh with, and that's just the beauty of reading. So yeah, I don't know. Very sad about this book, but I do have to say, I think I might look at George Saunders' works, like other stories of his, because I don't think this is typically a writing style he writes in. Like, it's a very unique way to tell a story, and I have to give it to him that this is art, you know, to be able to write a story like this, but it's just not my thing. But I do really enjoy his writing. Again, in the parts where it felt like the story was connected, it was just described really well. The emotions were described really well. The atmosphere. I think I would like other of his books, just maybe not ones that are written like this, if he does write like this often. Those are my thoughts for Lincoln and the Bardo. And I was going to pick up H is for Hawk, but I've been doing this vlog for over 2 weeks now. I'm not in the mood for H is for Hawk right now, so I don't want to read it when I'm not in the mood, because that could totally ruin my reading experience. So I think we're just going to end off this vlog with these 3 books. So for a recap, we got Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This was a 5-star. Absolutely loved this story. Loved the uniqueness of the story. Loved Demon's voice. Loved everything about this book. A depressing book. So sad. Do not read this if you think you're gonna have a good time. You're not. But I loved it. Then we read Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. I landed on a 4-star of this. Again, a lot of really sad books, I'm realizing. Like, all 3 of these were about very sad topics. But this is a nonfiction about Joan Didion's experience of her first year of being a widow after her husband passes away, and also dealing with a really sick daughter at the same time. Loved the exploration of grief. I felt it was very relatable at times, and at other times I just was not connecting to the story. Not the story, but the things that she was speaking about, that it disconnected me from, you know, the overall bubble of grief that I feel like I was in while reading this book. So stunning writing. Will definitely pick up more of Joan Didion's work. And then again, Lincoln and the Bardo, 2.5 to 3 stars. I don't know where I'm gonna land. Hopefully I will know by the end of the month when I do my wrap up, but yeah, a little disappointed to say the least. So I guess at the end of this, we can now confirm that this New York Times 100 Best Books of the 21st Century is not exactly my ticket to all 5-star reads, because it went from a 5-star to a 4 to a whole, I don't know, 2.5. So, it's not the answer to that, but I would say that I do want to explore other titles on that list, because overall, I still think all of these books are very well written and could be 5 stars for many, many different people. So that's my conclusion. I hope we will do another one of these, because I have quite a few other books on that list already on my physical TBR. And if you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there are other books on that list that you think are a must read, and I will definitely get to them. And yeah, this was fun. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.
Lazy Sunday mornings, hiding under covers. I don't mind staying in with you. Play your favorite movie, laying right beside me. I don't mind when it's just a